Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. We're live, and today we've got a really fun episode for you. Today we're talking about Minecraft movie, and it's making a lot of waves. It's going to be making history, cinema history, but probably for all the wrong reasons. Secondly, we're going to follow it up with how scientists are reviving the dire wolf, a species that hasn't walked the earth since the Stone Age. And then, it's a trend. It's going to slowly snowball. Let's see where it goes. But Utah has become the first state to ban fluoride in its water. So that being said, today we're working with a bit of a skeleton crew, and I'm excited for what we got for you. Joining me on the co-chair is my good friend Steve Harper, and running the keys as always is Dougie Fresh. So, kicking off the episodes, before we get into the Minecraft movie, we have been doing a little bit of an update on past topics at the beginning of the episode. And one of the updates I'd like to circle back to, last week we talked about the nuked up super bat, the torpedo bat that the Yankees were using. And what better way to update you than a little bit of an update on our man, Jose Ramirez. No torpedo bat yet. And the man's, and normally he starts off the year a bit cold. And we got to talk Indians today because it's our home opener. That's why Will isn't here with us. So with the update, here's Jose with no torpedo bat. What you doing, Jose?
We finished this. What happened 3 times today?
You know, bro, home run pitch 3 times. Home run pitch, home run pitch, and home run pitch.
Hold on, man.
What he could do on the offense. A really good base runner also. And a rocket off the bat of Ramirez is going to give Cleveland a...
You got to love it. You got to love it. He's making it look so easy, too. We got to be careful with the audio. I don't want to play too much.
Now, quickly, 17th.
Drawn at first with 2 outs. And a rocket out to right. Trout is back, and Jose Ramirez has done it again.
Brought through those
Man, oh man.
Yeah. That interview was the post-game interview.
There's number 3 for Jose Ramirez.
Let's hear it again. What was it, Jose?
What happened 3 times today?
You know, bro, home run pitch 3 times. Home run pitch, home run pitch, and home run pitch.
And that's no torpedo bat. So, with the in-house Indians expert, with Steve joining us today, we had to get a little bit of Jose, especially with the home opener. And if you weren't watching, the update is the game was won. It was 0-0 in freezing cold Cleveland weather all day. 0-0. What gets us to the win? A walk-off, a literal walk-off. Bases loaded, batter walked. That brings in the run.
1-0.
1-0. And here's the league. We got to make the game quicker and higher scores to keep it entertaining. People are freezing like a Browns game in an 0-1 game.
I guess that's what happens in 32-degree weather. My whole thing with that, though, is you've got all these teams in the southern part of the country start off the season for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks in the southern part of the country. Why are you playing games when you have no idea what the weather's going to be in Detroit, in New York, in Philadelphia, in Cleveland, in Seattle, Washington? That makes no sense in outdoor stadiums why you do any of that.
But here we are.
Cleveland. I'm sure it was close to sold out, if not sold out today. Those fans going wild, tailgating in the garages and everything.
They're all just sitting there like Bernie Sanders as a meme, just, I love baseball.
Or they drink enough beer and they don't feel it.
Oh, that's how you cope with sports in Cleveland. So let's kick off today's episode. You guys are not ready for this historical moment. A historical cinema moment that I think with a movie none of us anticipated. The Minecraft movie is out here breaking records. Okay, let me rattle this off for you. The Minecraft movie was predicted at most 90 million, probably 70 million. First weekend brings in $157 million in North America this weekend alone. Number 1 for video game movie releases, topping the Super Mario Brothers movie, which was $146 million total, folks. That's that's just the opening weekend. That is a crazy statistic, because Mario is like a cult following, hits all the ages, and was here, I would think, before Minecraft. So for this to have such a big moment like that, $60 million on Saturday alone, setting a Saturday record for Warner Brothers Studios. The average viewer was 14 to 24. Second biggest movie of the year behind Captain America and before Mufasa the Lion King, which to me tells me that's not the biggest statistic in the world. Like, if you're just before and behind Doggy Dooku 1 and Doggy Dooku 2, like, are you really that great of a film? But, hey, that's where the market is now, baby. Now, another great accolade, both Jack Black and Jason Momoa's biggest opening weekends ever were this movie. Wow. Shallow Hal's got this gal. Third biggest April release behind both Infinity War and Endgame. And it made $301 million worldwide, doubling the fan favorite Snow White's live action remake. This was all with a budget of $150 million. That means every day beyond this is just pure profit, baby. That's wild. So what makes this kind of a big deal, a topic worth talking about? None of those records I brought up. No, it's, dude, I'm about to bore you with the series of videos of chaos at these movie theaters. This is what the Minecraft movie was like.
Showtime.
We're gonna go nuts in there.
Oh, you don't believe me? Believe me.
It's a chicken jockey.
Chicken jockey!
Oh, yeah.
Chicken jockey!
This dude's throwing a bucket of water. The first time I saw that, because it's from a different angle, I thought it was popcorn. No, Big Dog filled up a bucket of water. I'm hoping that's water.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Water or
You
something
don't
else,
know.
But regardless, he took the time to do that. What is
Oh, wait,
going
wait.
on?
Oh, wait, wait. Wait.
This is the movie of agony and despair. They shut it off. They shut off my damn movie and turn the lights on.
Turn it. Why?
Minecraft movie, very exciting, very fun. But there's like almost 200 of you in here. People with families, people who want to watch the movie. Get you want to say your little jokes and things like that. Just watch the movie. All right? Let's not make any big deal about it. You guys can laugh.
Matthew, pipe down.
Clap if you're happy. But let's keep it professional, all right?
I thought that was a pretty weak attempt at closing it out. But here is the from the outside. And again, this is a different theater every video. The chicken jockey brings the most out of people. That, you know what? There's a cute like cult
On the
behind
count
it.
of three, I want everyone to give your best chicken jockey. All right, ready? Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Chicken jockey.
See, like, that's fun, harmless. But it's when it becomes straight up like militia. Here we go. You ready?
This is the movie of agony and despair. They shut it off.
Oh, we
They
just
shut off
watched
my-
that one. What the heck you doing, Doug? Get it together.
I'm doing my best, okay?
Okay. Okay, just some screaming. Nothing bad yet.
Chicken jockey.
All right, streamers. and
Toilet
napkins,
paper?
Okay.
Look at that. People are taking their clothes off.
Oh, that's like silly string.
Oh, yeah, silly string.
That's a mess, bro. Ooh. Feel bad for those workers.
Oh, dude. The workers across the country have been getting railed with this. Oh, dude. So that was number. Hey, let's check out another one. Dude, there's so many of these. This poor lady keeps getting ridiculed as the lowest. I tried finding the original clip without like the animations on the front. The kid had to delete it because he was, I don't know, having law enforcement going after him, and he's 13.
Oh my God, that voice. Just, that is on point.
The theater is trash. Watch the movie. Why are you throwing food and screaming?
Sounds like my study hall teacher in 6th grade.
We're going to leave. We're going to stop the movie, and everyone's got to leave. No refund.
Yeah. Here it comes. Chaos.
Hi.
Good jockey!
Okay, now see if you can notice what happens to the screen. Ready? Hey, wait, and now, pelted with a blue slushie.
Ooh.
Now these people are stuck with a blue slushie on the screen for the rest of the film.
The screen! The screen! He broke the screen!
You gotta be kidding.
What level of unhinged and untamed do the Utes have to be at today for that to even be possible?
I don't understand.
Quiet!
Flashlight on.
Yeah, for real. Wait until you see the guy in front of you.
Chicken Jackie!
Shirt off already. Dude. What the?
I don't get the need for the.
I guess when you can't
That
sneak out
length.
of your parents' house anymore and go TPing, this is what
You,
you do.
you go
do this at
TP the movie theater.
You at 7 o'clock at night when your parents allow you out. You go to the movie theater. And, I mean, what, Doug? Do you have any explanation for this? What? How?
Why would I know, dude? I'm waiting for
It's your
like the
kids.
Fortnite movie to come out, and that's Alex.
30 years old.
What are they gonna do in the Fortnite? Bring boxes with axes and start hitting them until you get a.
No, they'll have all the dances in it, and
Yeah.
Alex will just be like, "That's my move."
The gritty. Oh, he's hitting the gritty.
Wow.
Multiple families now because of all
we're
the
not
teenagers
done.
in here.
Oh,
If you
dude.
do it again, you're all getting kicked out and leave.
sir, can you please stop recording?
Understand?
Stop recording. Oh, I got you, dude.
It's not playing until I hear yes out of back row right there.
Yes, sir.
Sir, yes, sir.
Are we good?
It's like an assembly. Like you're only gonna get worse behavior out of them because
You're acknowledging.
that's the game now. Yeah, because you're acknowledging it.
This is like crazy.
I know. Oh, dude. I don't feel like this is real life, but it is because I'm watching real footage of it.
And there's,
And there's
so many.
so much. That's the point here. The point here is there's so much. I neglected videos. Like over the weekend, I put together a collection, and for the sake of not losing the viewers with too much of it, I had to dispel a huge chunk. Oh, dude. Hey, do you guys go to the movie theaters? Now the movie theaters are great. It's not just what we grew up on, like the stadium folding chair where like your wallet would lose down the back. Oh, no. These are big, cushy loungers. Hit that electric button, kick it back, and then I think it was you, Doug. Someone got upset with me because I took a chair. I bought the tickets, by the way. I take the chair and they go, okay, I wanted the most middle. Then I go to recline and it's broken. And they're like, that's what you get. Well, guess
Karma.
what? When I'm stuck in that situation of misery in which Doug calls karma, this is why. Look at this guy. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. If this video came out and it went viral, okay, and Mrs. Harper goes, oh my God, did you guys see that Alexander went viral? Did you see the video? And my dad sees this clip, the degrees at which my ass is whooped. That's what I mean. It's like, who's parenting these people?
Well, and I mean, he probably looks what?
He looks
at
like
least
he's
22.
yeah. His
I would-
parents
Yeah.
will be
At
whooping.
least 22. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I think he's got to be a little bit older than that. I know. So you say your parents, your dad would beat your ass. I could be 65.
Here, keep it like close to your mouth.
I could be 65. God bless my parents. Hope to God they live that long. And at 65, my dad would be coming out with this cane and beating my ass.
Exactly. Oh, so did you think that was it? You'd be wrong. Oh no, we've got so many. And now I gotta let you know, if you haven't picked up on the trend, this thing ferments as we go. They're only gonna get more intense. I meant it when I said it. The whole theater got kicked out.
Wouldn't you start putting a couple paws up if you had a whole thing of popcorn or water dumped on you?
Dude, what's crazy about this is there's families that showed up to this, right? Like, it wasn't these kids bought the whole theater. It's like there's a mom and a dad and a kid.
It's a group
and
of
then,
5 people.
Yeah. Well, no, but I think it's like 6 groups of 5 kids.
Yeah.
And then there's pockets of family that are like, what did we sign up for? Look at the floor. And then, you know what's even funnier is put yourself in the shoes of the guy selling the popcorn. Like, 6 11-year-olds show up and they're like, ha, ha, largest popcorn. Ha, ha. And you're like, motherfucker, here you go. And you're eating it, right? And they just book it to do this. Like,
well, I see they've got like special Minecraft containers and everything.
yeah, oh, of course.
Popcorn
but they're
drink.
not tossing the dude, okay. Can we take a pause in the dialogue here for a second and talk about the popcorn bucket craze that's like just suffocating America? The fact that there's people that'll go to Disney World, like I am going to pay for a ticket to Disney World, $90, to stand in line all day long to buy 7 Figment popcorn buckets so I can go to eBay and sell them all. If that is your daily job, first off,
Good for you.
taxes. Doug, I'll unplug you. I don't need a producer that bad. Here's the deal. 1,
Good for you.
no, bad. First off, there's a whole conversation to be had about taxes. Like, there's a whole market of underlings that that take the benefit of all of our social welfare in this society, but pay nothing into it.
Yeah.
That's part of what this is, right? What do you do for a living? I eBay. Okay. How much of that are you telling the IRS?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to have that conversation. It's the bigger conversation of, 1, you spent your whole day for, you know what? But you know what? There's people that do it for bourbons. There's a whole, okay. The bigger takeaway is, why is there this much of a market for a popcorn bucket, right? Like, I'm the
I
guy
have a
that's
question.
willing to pay $95 for the popcorn bucket. That's insane.
Well, yeah. So
$200.
So this fig bucket you talk about, could you
Figment.
just,
Figment is a character.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Let me just, I'm
and
opining.
it's a figment in Minecraft.
Oh no, this is Disney. But okay, I'm gonna bring it full circle.
Warner
So
Brothers, yeah,
Disney is like, they sell them at the park, and they're kind of like the center of the popcorn bucket craze. And now it's evolved in the movie theater. So now every movie does a big one. So like you said, yeah, Warner Brothers does this movie, but now so I'm kind of using Disney as the extreme to make fun of this whole market of people that are buying popcorn buckets. But now think of every movie selling them. There's a whole world of movie nerds
back
like
up
Foster.
back up just one second, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
How does a popcorn bucket sell for whatever X amount of dollars? What's X? How much do these sell for? $100+?
200, 300?
Okay. So they're a popcorn bucket that everybody walks into the amusement park and can purchase? Or is this
it's got to be at every store in Disney World. So you got to go to
one
Disneyland.
Of every 500 people randomly pulls out this one, or
no,
anybody?
It's you got to go to the space. You got to go to the Toy Story store in the Disney World, and you'll get there, and there will be a lot. You ever see the South Park? When do we get to the ride?
Yeah.
And they're in a line, and they're like, "This is the ride." That's Disneyland. You buy a ticket, and then you go wait in a line that, dude, literally extends upwards to 8-9 hours to stand in line for a popcorn bucket that you will at max, I think they let you maybe buy like 3-4 depending on the bucket.
Yeah.
And then you go home and sell them on eBay.
Yeah.
That was your amusement at the park for the day.
I could find a lot more amusement than standing around,
dude,
millions of crying children.
Think about what does it say about the people that are collecting these, right? Like, okay, I grew up being someone that likes little figurines. So like video games, action figures. I loved all the little figurines. Bingo. Yeah. You know what? My dad would be proud of you for throwing that in my face. That was the cooler thing. I had baseball cards too, but
I didn't collect them because it was cool. They said it was going to be lucrative. That's why.
Yeah, and here we are. And my dumbass kept the baseball cards and sold the Pokemon cards at a garage sale for young kid money. Now who's a dumbass? Yep. Guess who had a Charizard? Dude.
Wait, was it holographic?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I got one of those too. Those are worth a lot of money right now.
Yeah, I sold it at a garage sale.
Check those booklets that I kept them. The nice.
Oh yeah, I have them in a nice sealed booklet.
So again, I can appreciate a figurine or like a set, but a popcorn bucket. Okay, so Deadpool, their popcorn bucket was a giant Wolverine with his mouth wide open, and you're putting your mouth. Okay, unless you're like, I love Wolverine, and I'm going to always eat popcorn out of this. Are you seriously going to have a shelf of giant blocky popcorn buckets? You can only use one. So what's the purpose? Like, this is my dad collects football mini helmets. I get that. There's a new football mini helmet every year, and the set itself also is like a third the size, quarter the size. So like you're not taking up. It's I don't know.
Know what I think I can relate this to, and it's not that my family's guilty of it. We have quite a few of them, but you see those families where the kids want that cup, the souvenir cup from usually sporting events, but it could be X Games or whatever else, and they want the souvenir cup. Everyone says that they're going to use this souvenir cup, and they're going to do this with it and do that. Then it just gets thrown in your cupboard or your drawer and never gets touched. All that's used for is ice water in the middle of the night. That's
okay. All that's good for is ice water in the middle of the night. As someone that I don't drink pop. It's all water. Do you know, I cannot wait until the science comes out and it's like, oh my God, here is one specimen that drank 2 decades of water sustenance from a half-wilted Nick Chubb plastic cup. Because I drink all my water out of like 3 Indians cups that still remain, and like
from the late 90s.
Oh yeah. And then like 15 Browns cups.
Emphasis on the Indians.
Oh yeah. That's the only people that played today. I don't know of another team from Cleveland that got a victory against the stealing White Sox.
Long live the Chief.
That's right. That's right, Doug. Okay.
All right.
So I don't know if you guys
are. He needs you as a producer now.
Yeah, you're back. We're plugging you back in. Even though you're willing to support degenerate lifestyles.
Hey, you're just mad because they make money.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Who's fueling that? But anyway, it gets crazier.
But real quick, how do you like? I understand predicting most trends or most purchasing things that happen. How do you or do you just produce a few popcorn buckets and all of a sudden you see this hysteria behind it and you're like, all right, manufacture a
1,000%.
Like,
I think there was an SNL skit about that where it's like, all right, now we got to make a popcorn bucket for every movie. What's going to be this popcorn bucket for this movie? And it's like, no matter the movie, you're trying to make one.
But going back to your Wolverine point, like, so yes, if you're obsessed with the movie Wolverine, that makes a lot of sense. A little bit past,
to a degree.
A little bit past that too. It's kind of cool. You're sticking your hand into a Wolverine's mouth.
Yes.
Other than this, I mean, the Minecraft movie, how you create it, is such a cool like popcorn bucket, like the Wolverine
it's a cube.
Yeah. That's a one-off though, right? There's There's only so many things you can create that it's cool to stick your hand into. If anything, it's probably more scary to see yourself sticking your hand into something than it is cool. The Wolverine one, I get.
I'm trying to think. There were some recent ones. So they had like a baby Deadpool. So here's what. And one of the Deadpool ones was like the skeleton head, like it's a severed Deadpool head, and you like literally have. Okay, that stuff's cool. And I want to make a concession to, because we're all nerds here having a good time. I want to make a concession to the cinema nerd that's like, I like this stuff. You're allowed to. The absurdity to me, if I wanted to take it a step further, is I'll make the concession that like some of these across the board, they do make unique. It's like a giant figurine, but it's like, this isn't something you can practically collect. Or let me put it more outwardly. It's something that you shouldn't practically collect because it's just huge, bulky, and there isn't much practical use. Like it isn't like some of them, very few of them, are a cool figurine that like the back opens up into a popcorn thing. Most of them are like a thing with a giant hole in them. So it's not even like a display. It's a it's a bucket.
And let's call it the 101 Dalmatians remake the next time they do a remake. And you buy that that thing's not going to fit inside the Minecraft one. And the Minecraft one's not going to fit inside the Donkey Kong one. And the Donkey Kong one's not going to fit inside the Mario Kart one. And it's like, so to your point, yeah, they're bulky. They're not like baseball cards. They're not like Pokemon cards. They're not like Beanie Babies or other collectibles that people have that you can throw into the storage container. And then 20 years from now, you hope one of them is of worth. I can't imagine. I don't know. That's me speaking. I don't know if there's anybody else out there who thinks that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, there's going to be a popcorn bucket that's super valuable.
Yeah, seriously.
Such as, I don't know.
These are NFTs in plastic form, dude. You're getting duped. But here's what's crazy. Okay, bring it full circle to this movie. One, let's not get lost on, there's a trend that is snowballing. And now movie theaters have to like intervene. They have to create policies around the fact that there is triggering points within this movie. I am Steve, and Chicken Jockey triggers the crowd into chaos. And not for the sake of like, here's what we can all agree. When Iron Man says, I am Iron Man, and snaps his fingers on a quadrillion-dollar industry of a crescendo of billion-dollar moments, all to one thing, that took a lot of work, time, money, effort, writing, emotion. That was art. This isn't being compelled by art. This is a TikTok and Instagram trend of vandalizing a theater. Like, here's what's crazy. I look at this and go, I know I'm officially old because I can't get behind the trend. But truth be told, and I can pull up the pictures, skipped school to see the first Avengers movie. I am a senior in high school. I am 17, 18 years old. Nothing was destroyed. So, like, that was a movie that even adult, young, whatever.
And that was like a midnight showing, too. I went to the midnight of Avengers. Nothing like this happened. I went to the first showing of the original Avengers movie. Nothing even happened. Like, that was the release at the time, was going to the midnight show. Nothing happened.
So where do you think society has taken a turn that first?
Exactly.
As I think we've all agreed, these weren't midnight showings. These are
across the whole weekend.
7 o'clock at night.
And here's what you're noticing. $157 million in the first weekend, surpassing Super Mario Brothers at $146 million. And guess what? This is a lot more kids and a lot less families. How'd you beat Super Mario Brothers? You've got kids double dipping because they rode the Millennium Force. It was a fun ride. We just had a food fight and they went back. Nobody's going back to see a movie they just saw that weekend. I saw Super Mario Brothers. It was a good movie. I didn't go back. This was perpetually full because there were kids probably continuously going back all weekend, causing absolute hell. And dude, like I'm saying, we got 5 more videos. You want to see hell? Yeah. Buckle up for hell.
I'm not ready. I'm not.
Chicken jockey!
Where did the chicken jockey start from? Was there somebody that made this?
This happened in one theater at the opening showing, and the video took flame, and now it's huge, dude.
Everybody jump up!
Shut up.
Chicken jockey!
Chicken jockey!
Dude, listen to the screaming.
I mean, it sounds like somebody's dying.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They have to keep control on this. Look at this kid wind up. He like totally winds up.
Lights on his
He's
phone.
ready. He's buying popcorn just for this.
He's got his foot up.
2 buckets.
And he throws the whole bucket. Too.
Yeah, full buckets. Dude, I'm telling you, the last one you're not ready for. Like, it all leads to the most.
My bad.
Yeah. Watch this again. He throws a bucket, movie's over. Dude in front of him. Kick your ass.
My bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Good for that guy.
Seriously. I'm shocked that didn't happen more often this weekend. You'd think people showing up for a good time would get sick of it. Oh, not that one again. All right. I just want now law enforcement gets involved. So it just gets crazier.
This is so bad.
They stopped the movie. Cops came, kicked him out. And of course, they still play victim. Dude, I'm telling you, the last one you're still not ready for.
Oh, I can't wait.
All right, 3 more. That's insane.
I will stop it. You won't get kicked out. You can continue. It's not funny. Can I get a refund? You guys just need to grow up and watch your movie.
Stop being a jerk.
All right, that one, you get the picture. Classic yelling. 2 more. This is the one that started them all.
Chicken
Okay, Snitch.
And it's literally like an assembly. He's like, they're calling each other out.
And
like, look at the kid in the red shirt.
How did they find the one? Like everybody did it. I just saw that video.
Yeah, like they're waving to their friend. Like, oh, wow. All right, you ready for the worst theater of them all?
Wait, they get worse?
So that was the one that had started it all. Was
Yeah,
that one?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Babe, what do you say?
Someone pulled the fire alarm.
Why?
And it's stuck on Steve. Oh, yeah. Dude. Dude, I would get so mad if I got hit by the popcorn or if they pulled the fire alarm. Dude.
I just don't understand. Like, this is a time for enjoyment. And if I end up with one popcorn kernel, let alone a full bucket, let alone a Dr. Pepper or a Coca-Cola or a slushie, I'm telling you, I'd be pulling my paws out, not knowing the way it would end, but I wouldn't really care at that point. That is so crazy.
So here's the thing. I did the viewer the favor. I didn't want to come into this dialogue from a complete position of ignorance. I saw the movie. It's exactly like Super Mario Brothers. It's a classic like tale you've seen 1,000 times in 20 different ways. But it was okay. And I think if you're a Minecraft fan, I could see how you really, really love it. It wasn't a bad movie, but honest to goodness, for something that cost $150 million, where I fell short for today's viewers is I had so much, and we still have so much media for today's episode. I have them on my phone and I don't have them ready for you. I have like 20 pictures I took screenshotted from the movie of the worst, the choppiest green screen jobs, like around their hair, like all of it. It is so tacky that like anybody that takes pride in the art, the fact that with DaVinci Resolve on my Apple computer, I could have achieved a better green screen effect makes you wonder, what was $150 million used on? Because you surely didn't have the props to worry about.
Well, they steered 100 of that million into the Snow White movie.
Well, and don't forget too, I'm sure Jack Black and Jason Momoa, they probably had to get their share of that money,
Well, I'm sure you're paying a lot for actors, and there's a scene, an interview I heard of Jack Black, talking about a guy that had to get in a block suit to pretend to be his dog. And so, okay, dude, you're paying those actors too, like the position actors and all that. But at what point, you brought up Snow White, the real conversation I'd like to have is, at what point do we look at the production studio and go, no, you don't get to call that live action. You had people in it. It's people. But it's all computers. It's all cartoon. When you look at the Minecraft movie, that's not live action. When you look at Snow White and all the dwarves are CGI, like, what is an Avengers movie anymore? Avengers 1, so different than Endgame. And it's like, if you're just buying a Universal Warehouse sized green screen, that is, when you watch Jurassic Park, speaking of Jurassic Park, that's going to be a perfect segue into the next segment. But when we talk about Jurassic Park, what made that incredible cinema, peak film, like that film, like that is an art, not digital video, film. And then they had to build a T-Rex and you had to focus on lighting, the atmosphere of the outside,
the speed of it.
And you know what? Speaking of how smart our subconscious is, our eyes pick up the uncanny valley types where it's like, it isn't real. Here's a fact. I can watch every Saw movie, no problem. Love it. If I walk in the living room to my mom and my sister watching Botched and it's a real butt cheek getting chopped up, I cry. I watch every American Horror Story. Good juice.
Yeah.
Put on, again, a surge, 90210, Botched or something. You're like, nope, can't do it. Your mind knows the difference between incredible makeup and reality. And so I would like, what would have made the art of this even cooler? Recreating this. Like, make it real. That's worth $150 million, but it's also exhausting in efforts and resources.
So I'm thinking between the Snow White movie and Minecraft, I didn't get the number written down of what Snow White brought in.
I could get that.
But I've got 157 million for the Minecraft, 301 million Minecraft worldwide. What's fascinating to me is I would like to know
43 million first weekend.
Yes, that's so ridiculous. What I really think with those two movies is the trend.
I just want to give you domestic 43 million versus domestic 157 million. They debuted globally 87 million versus the 301 million Minecraft got.
So how much of the demographic after the first day of that movie release, Minecraft movie release, did the demographic change into this younger group of what looks like males going to the movie theater versus Snow White, where right off the bat you start to see all this political far left talk about it. I mean, just based on these numbers, it seems like in those, and now you're showing targeted clips, but all those clips had a bunch of high school aged young men in them. The Snow White, all the pictures I saw that there was nobody in the theater.
I saw one theater, nobody but Rachel Ziegler, right? So the main
she
actress,
ran out the whole studio.
She's in a theater by herself. Ooh. Yeah, she's one of the 47 million.
Looking, it does show without knowing either anything, I mean, except for what I know about the original Snow White movie. I don't know much about the remake of it. It just looks like people are more interested in not being told what to do every day of the week by far lefties. Now, I will tell you, I don't agree at all with this whole Minecraft situation either. There are so many things I go throughout my daily life, and I'm just trying to keep to myself.
Dude, we wouldn't even do that during the World Series.
I wouldn't even have done that during my craziest heyday. I would have gone and, like I said, TP'd a house. I would have done something.
Dude, where were you and what did you do when the Cleveland Cavaliers won the national championship?
Ooh, good.
Because
question.
guess what I didn't do? Throw buckets and buckets of things. I got crazy. I got wild. I was downtown and we did a woo-hoo. There were people hanging out of the car windows. You want to know where the line of civility is in this human race?
That's a great point.
I was downtown having a good time, whoop whoops with strangers and neighbors. And then there were people just elephant stomping down cop cars. So I wasn't them, but I was downtown in the same vicinity. So there's the Y in the road.
But the people being elephant stomping on cop cars are becoming, unfortunately, much more prevalent. And I could not agree with you more. I was on the top of the 9 at the bar. I forget what it's called. When the buzzer had sounded, did I throw my beer off the top, which hit somebody?
Man.
That would have probably killed. No, I didn't do that. What I did, I don't even know.
Only Morgan Wallen does that.
I sprinted down the steps just to be with everybody on the street. That I had nothing in my hand at that point. But yeah, it's ruining public things. Just to me sounds and feels.
Here's what's funny.
And looks
my
really,
dad's
really bad.
So obsessed with like landscaping mulch and his landscaping mulch, to be specific, that he's instilled in me like respecting other people's beds. If you go to like the mall, like you're in the parking lot and there's the end cap, like curbed flower bed, you best believe there is no Gurgat walking through that.
I like that.
Period. So there's the difference. And so again, maybe I should flavor our beautiful Minecraft dialogue, because I imagine the thumbnail and the dialogue or the concept brings in some of the Minecrafters that we need to bring some of. This isn't to trash. It was a good movie, and I think you guys have a fun little community. This, though, is less Minecraft, in my opinion, and more kids being kids. This is a TikTok trend. They're getting away with it because they're doing it in numbers. It makes it easier to get away with in numbers, but it is funny upon reflection. Like Mr. Beast tries so hard to stay hip and cool, and it falls through his fingers. He created this clip to, appeal to the youngins, and it backfired so hard that it's haunting him. He's trying to delete it. It keeps coming back, and people are trashing him because it's so cringe.
For the mind, so I bought out the theater.
So it's the Mr. B's song singing Chicken Jockey.
Chicken jockey!
You just go, ew.
Yeah, that was real cringy.
Ew. It was.
That was like so like ha, 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 ha.
So
like I've never heard a fake laugh before.
Right. So I want to get into. There's one other. Just keeping it relevant for the Minecrafters. One of the cool little Easter eggs in this. There's a Minecraft legend known as Technoblade, and he made a cameo.
No. That's a legend.
It was actually my kill. In fact, get over here. Get over here right now.
So what's cool about this movie is it was made for a community. And did it turn into a meme? Are a lot of people trolling it? Is it getting more success than it otherwise would because of the meme factor? Totally. However, it was made for the people, by the people. So the main actor, one of the main kid, at least in the movie, man, streamer, you need to figure this out. It's aggravating. But the main kid, if you see him there, Sebastian Hansen is the actor's name. He went to the writers and really the director and compelled them to include Technoblade, who is a Minecraft legend, as I indicated. He's got so many great clips. He really built the online community for, and the following behind Minecraft. And he had cancer and he passed away. And so this was, I could have included more of the clips. Like there was a beautiful moment with it. And you could imagine what this means for his family and everything else. But I just want to acknowledge, I love that there's a lot of these little Easter eggs because it's for the community. And while some people showed up just to enjoy it with their family and that kind of got ruined, there still is a lot of that. And it's funny. This was an interview with Jack Black because the trailer got such a terrible review. Everybody thought for sure it was going to flop. And a lot of it was because the CGI was so like campy and blocky.
I was surprised because I loved the trailer. I was like, oh, this is going to go over great. And, there's always so many people that are sensitive to everything you put out there. But I love the movie. But now I'm like, I don't know. Let's see what everyone else thinks because I don't trust myself anymore.
So you guys haunted him with the trailer, so he had no faith going into the weekend of a movie that will end up being his best movie yet, best grossing movie. But it's so sad because like this movie was quite literally the Jumanji movie. It's just like going into the game and I got to get out of the game.
When it comes to the movie producers and the movie makers, I'm just trying to think, and maybe you have a better answer to this than I can think of at the moment. But do the movie producers really care if people are throwing popcorn all over the movie theater? They're not.
Oh, they don't.
Yeah,
they don't at all. It's just the theaters.
So if the memes continue to take off, the social media, the TikTok continues to take off this trend.
It's just more money.
So it's just more money. The movie producers don't care. It's the people who own the movie theaters that are having to deal with all this.
Well, no. The people that own the theater don't even care, I promise you, because they get a piece of all the ticket sales. They want people to come. It's the employees. It's the employees. That's who.
The advantage of being mildly crazy and having an inner dialogue is I've already walked this whole conversation out with myself. So I agree. Wouldn't that be the perfect answer? I own the movie theater. First place my mind went is if I own Cinemark, okay? I own not only a theater, I own a franchise of theaters, okay? I've got theaters across the country. Again, roll with me. Let's walk it out. If I have Cinemark, I would go, there's 24 theaters. Take 2 of them, 21 and 22. I want those 2 to be dedicated to this. One of them being your biggest and one of them being like a medium. Have them dedicated to Minecraft. Then you would say those are dedicated for these breakouts. Then there's 2 others designated for families. If you act out, you will be arrested to scare and deter children. That way they go into the chaos one, right? So Juan, walk it out with me. Yeah. There's a lot of money here. We could even sell more popcorn. If we just throw shit to the wind, we throw hell to the wind and we go, listen, Well, this is just we're going to let it go to chaos. This is going to be our 2 messy theaters. We let them get wrecked. We let them go to hell. And then we only have to worry about cleaning and maintaining these 2 theaters. It's not sporadically changing. Here's going to be the problem. Wherever you have fun and wherever you have potfuls of money, there's always grubbing attorneys to ruin it for everybody.
You're going to need everyone to sign a liability
There it is.
form.
That's where you're not going to make it happen, because this is a movie for kids. The people that you would need to contract.
I also think to your point, I mean, it's a genius idea, but society would never let it happen. And another reason society wouldn't let it happen is if these kids, whoever it is that's involved in these TikTok trends, if they found out there's a family-friendly theater showing it, they're going to purchase tickets to that family-friendly theater and disrupt them.
That one,
yeah,
yes.
And disrupt
but
them.
then that's what I mean is you try to deter it.
But if it's family-friendly, you probably don't need any cops there. Police.
I would.
Deterrence.
That would be the one that you do police, because, like I said, you've thrown the other ones to the wind.
So,
but the problem is you can't contract with children, so that's a huge problem. And what kid is going to have their parents sign a waiver so they can go to the theater and cause chaos?
Throw a bucket of popcorn with sharp blocked edges.
So it's one of those, like, even if you wanted to, like, this is where the kids need to sit back and realize that even if there were young spirited adults that were like, screw it, man, let's let the kids have some fun, make some money off of it too. We don't live in a world where that's feasible, especially en masse. It's cute and fun when one theater takes it to, it's max level. Yeah. They get kicked out and it goes away. But this can't, like, again, and really don't say the 3-letter word, avoid what I'm going to say here, but this is cute and fun because it's popcorn. Y'all remember the trend that happened in one bad movie theater during the Batman movie, right? So for the kids that don't know, tragedy struck. And one of the major concerns that I'm shocked is a concern at schools, but not at movie theaters. We really thought this is the beginning. I remember my dad telling me how long until we got metal detectors on movie theaters. I am utterly shocked we're still not there. So that didn't catch like wildfire like this does. And, quickly the hippie mom or dad goes, well, come on, it's harmless. It's totally different. It's like, yeah, but I'm going to transition my point here into the wrapping thoughts. My wrapping thoughts is this. I've been there. I've been kids I've TP'd people's houses. Oh, you got me. Statute of limitations. Plus you can't tell me what house it was. But here's the deal. That's harmless, and that's been around for 100 years. I didn't come up with something new. And there needs to be areas of, like, sanctity. Like, if we can't preserve the sanctity of a movie theater, we're just going to lose them. We're just going to lose that right. And that's what I fear is when you destroy every seat in the theater, you cost the theater double because it costs that much more to clean, like cost double in the cleaning fees or employees. These all add up to the point where they go, you know what? We're just going to streaming. And then Doug wins. And then we're stuck losing the theater. How many times, rarely, but how many times do we get movie topics in this show? And Doug's always the first one to go, this is why I watch it at home. I'm shocked we haven't had it yet.
I mean, usually that's with the movie I have interest in seeing, but not paying for it at theater. I have zero interest in seeing this movie.
Yeah.
So.
Which I think is, to your point, though, there was a targeted audience when they created this movie. I think to the producers' surprise and maybe to a few other people or many other people's surprise, it's become more popular than that. Maybe to what we all agree to is a bad reason for it becoming more popular, which I completely agree with that being a bad reason. I don't advise anybody going to movie theaters and doing that. I think that's a terrible idea. But that social media anymore has gotten so behind all the trends. And last thing I'm going to say to finalize it is that is a scary thing to think about, is if we continue to ruin all the good things that we have, such as a movie theater and feeling safe per se, or quote unquote safe. That's a sad thing. I mean, when are we going to be getting rid of public baseball fields?
How about this one? I'm not allowed to say it we love statistics, but we hate the analytics, what the numbers tell us. But all the malls have been evaporated because of a habit of people.
Yeah.
Like, there are too many people with nothing to do and no homestead to keep them grounded. They're wild animals, and they all have nowhere to, where do they congregate but a mall? And it's like, I can point to the type of behavior that has suffocated and killed every local mall. And the malls that currently reside in your local life right now, still alive, but I guarantee it's a shell of what it was, and it's because of those loitering habits that I'm implying.
It was a place to hang out. It was a playground for older aged children or younger aged adults.
And guess what? If you're not at the mall to look at the kicks or the new shoes or buy a thing of cookies, then guess what? You're there for trouble.
You 100%.
And guess 100%. What? Moms that are trying to go to Dillard's, they don't need trouble, especially when Jeff Bezos will bring it to their front stoop.
That's a great point and a great way to kind of picture what the movie industry, the movie theater industry probably will be in 10 years.
Yeah.
Non-existent.
It'll be Doug's living room and Doug wins again.
And it even goes back to some other things that I'm thinking of. Like, people are drinking less, which means they're going to the restaurant and bars less. And so everything is going to ultimately be inside of my own house. That's a scary world I don't want to live in. Everything's inside of somebody else's house. Now you're only meeting the people that you want me to meet. Now I don't know. I like opening my mouth and having conversations with random people that I would have never otherwise met or talked to if I wasn't at a movie theater. I wasn't at a restaurant or bar. Or I wasn't on a golf course screaming at someone for almost hitting me, or I wasn't elsewhere. Right? Those conversations don't happen, and that's why I think these public, I'm not gonna call them entities, but these public places need to exist.
Meeting spaces.
Yeah, it's not even a meeting space, because when you go to a movie theater, you're usually silent and you're watching the movie. But it's an opportunity to get out of the house. And I know Doug's not going to like that, but it is an opportunity to get out of the house.
Hermit.
Like, we can all cook and drink.
You leave your house to sit inside another house-sized room. Great for you.
It's the same thing for a restaurant. We can all cook. We can all drink at our own house. But why do we go out? Because somebody else is doing it for us.
Because I can't cook that well, all right?
No, you can't.
You're right. You can click a button pretty good and get it on the TV.
If it can't go in the thing,
if Hungry Helper doesn't make it, I don't have it.
I'm a person who I like going out and opening my mouth and possibly saying something stupid or smart and starting a conversation that way and seeing some things. I understand Doug's point of it is 100 times and probably even more than that to sit on your couch and watch a movie. And I don't care if it's 10, 15 or $20 to watch it. There is very easy opportunity to click that.
You know what my problem is?
If I'm in the movie theater, what am I spending? Over $20. So.
Bingo. My problem has become, I had this as a young man, and now I'm even older, so it's even worse, but I have an old man's bladder. So it's so nice to be able to go pause, and I'm going to go to the bathroom, on my way back, get some ice cream, and then hit play again. That's the beauty of being home. I agree, Doug, but also can we acknowledge...
Well, how about we do this? If you want the movie paused at a movie theater, just take a Minecraft popcorn bucket, throw it, you'll get the movie
One blue slushy!
You'll get the movie paused for 30 minutes. You can go take a big deuce if you need to.
If you really need to pause, there's this little red thingamajigger on the wall. If you pull the I can't believe someone did that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I can't believe
the Rethink Tank does not condone that behavior.
We don't condone anything that was just talked about. However, we think it's absolutely freaking hilarious.
So my last thought, and then I'm throwing it to Doug, is Steve raised it. We flirted with it, and I want to drive the final nail in, which is I really do not believe, like, this is being peddled by technology and trends of the social medias. But I really do not think, even no matter how strong the trend, whether it was from a magazine or it was on the TV and Nickelodeon from Slimed told you to do it, I just don't see millennials doing this. I don't see Gen X doing this. I think you're looking at kids that were raised in a COVID world where socialization and civil rules, like you went 4 years without being backhanded in public. That's a fact. And so, like, you know what's funny? And I'm going to end my point on this. This must, I guess, speak to how often it happened to me. I think of a PF Chang's with this type of scenario. We were at a totally different Chinese restaurant, and my dad goes, "You remember this bathroom?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Oh yeah, this is when I had you crying in." And no idea, totally forgot. And I'm like, that should tell you how often that happened to me. Yeah. Not like it was every day, all the time, but I also wasn't my sister, just well behaved. Like, what are we doing? I was a monster that deserved it every time. So when I sit back and go, there's 4 years of, okay, a story I say all the time is my dad had to take me to the bathroom once, and then it was just the threat of I'm going to take you to the bathroom for that to be enough for me to just shut up and get in line. So how many years of, do I need to take you to the bathroom? Did you neglect that for us to have a kid that's 22 jumping on a movie theater seat that's electronic? Like, dude, I'm sorry. Even our folding stadium chairs in the theater when we were 20, totally different than a $1,500 chair that needs to work for the next person.
And you still wouldn't have hopped up on the other chair.
Dude, my dad would never let me. Like, that's what I'm saying. Here's what it is. What was my comment at the beginning of this thing? Is I watched that kid in a video. My fear would be, it wasn't even filmed by one of my friends. A stranger's video goes viral and gets back to my dad. Yeah. That's how afraid I am of my dad finding me standing on a chair. That doesn't exist with you guys.
Whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, or 101 years old, you still don't want that movie to get back to him.
Like I was saying, we set it up perfectly. We got the nail there. Drive it the hell home. This is so much parenting and lack of socialization by these kids anymore. And I'm going to take the grandstanding position that it is you. This isn't a trend. This isn't cute. This isn't fun. Because anybody within their wherewithal would go, no. And you know what? I didn't want to bore you and make this an over-hour topic, which we're about to do. But the truth is, there are other videos of the zombie dropping on the chicken jockey, and people just going, woo! You know what was awesome? Seeing 3 Spider-Mans for the first time come whipping around a corner, and the whole theater was like, yeah! And then we just went back to eating the popcorn. Yes. So it's just like, to me, this is a reflection of a generation, a lack of civility. Anybody in their right mind would rise above this. Your inability to do so, no matter how much you want to write it off as fun, TikTok, trending, whatever, it's you, dude. And you need to grow up. And here's the truth. You want to know why you're wrong? Because I lived your side of the fence and I'm on this side of the fence. Here's what's dope. When you're on this side of the fence, I'm going to give you just like 6-7 more years. You will look back at what you did. I hope, like us, Facebook gives you 2 years ago on this day. I hope every year this comes around and every year it gets more and more painful for you to watch. Where you're like, and
if you're wondering why your boss puts you in the corner of the office and gives you the least amount to do and you're never getting a raise, that video is going to be exactly why.
Yeah, exactly. It's why. All right, Doug, rapid thoughts because we exhausted the craft mind.
I loved your point about swinging around. It's like, dude, I remember the well-known memed out Spider-Man point scene that happened in the movie. Some dude was like, that's the meme. Like no one complained. No one got the cops called. Like people cheered. Like
he didn't throw a blue slushie.
Yeah, no slushie was thrown. And these are all kids too. And so part of me is just like, maybe these theaters need to start checking for a guardian.
14 to 24 is average age, not kids. Yeah. 14, you knew better. 24, I'm slapping you.
They're still kids compared to us.
Fair, Doug. You're not a kid either.
He's just going to keep selling home. I'm going to watch this movie in my freaking family room.
I don't even plan on watching this. This does not even get a view. Does not even get a view.
All right, it was a good movie. You should check it out. Anyway, poor Steve. That was an exhausting first topic. We got these next two aren't going to be as dense, but they're definitely going to be fruitful. This next one is a fascinating next step for human evolution, and just science and biology and nature and animal evolution and evolution. Darwin is trembling. Scientists have revived the dire wolf, a species that hasn't walked the earth since the Stone Age. So this has been a cool crescendo of discourse, because now all of the mainstream medias are talking about this. Time, the Washington Post.
I've literally seen it everywhere.
It's literally everywhere. And at the same time that this is coming out everywhere, we have Joe Rogan interview the head of the company that's doing this. So we get to kind of see an in-depth perspective of it. So, as Steve isn't here all the time, I got to tell you, we're not always watching Joe Rogan clips, but I got a few because it is an awesome conversation. But first, let me introduce you to the past, the Stone Age. Welcome to the dire wolf, the Game of Thrones fantasy.
They're so cute. I want one. Oh.
And so these are the videos that are going viral right now. What's funny is they're older than this now. They're at about 7 months old. So let's get into some of the clips, because this conversation is absolutely incredible. It's with Ben Lamb, episode number 2301. And like I said, this is an incredible time for science, biology, and man. The woolly mammoth. So this is Ben Lamb, as I suggested, CEO of Colossal Biosciences. And what's cool about the pursuit of Colossal Biosciences, this company, is one, everything's free. All the information, all the data, totally open sourced. The beauty of future corporations, business, and science. That's how it needs to be. That being said, they're working on multiple extinct species, woolly mammoth being one of the first and most exciting, that being one. So of course they walked down that road. The dire wolf wasn't their first pursuit, but it ended up developing in one of the first accessible, obviously, because that was the first achieved. Now, none of these animals have been released to the wild. They're all in captivity. One of the things that, while we're talking to the woolly mammoths, I want to kind of just display, they have found success in putting together a woolly mouse. So the next step is going to be a woolly mammoth, the bear. But if you see the mouse there compared to the woolly mouse, one of the things that they indicated is that the woolly mammoth wasn't like that dark brown like we see in cartoons and have always understood it to be. That's because they've kind of been like in mud and been decaying. Truth is that they're more of a blonde, reddish, brighter beige. And now, of course, they've got these series of mice. They're going to let them live out their lives to their fullest. They're not going to, euthanize them or anything. They're going to live them, but they're not going to sell them because there's this huge craze now. People want woolly mice. And so they're pushing for it. A lot of this dialogue revolves around the science of CRISPR. So for those of you that aren't familiar, this is something that was fascinating me back in law school, dude. We're talking half a decade, if not a decade ago. The Vice and other companies were out here doing documentaries about CRISPR, which is gene modification that isn't illegal, but is not a supplied science. So really, there's a bunch of rogue independents that have been dabbling with the science of CRISPR. There was a guy that straight up made his dog glow in the dark by taking the gene, the gene from a lightning bug, and putting it in his dog. And he was able to do the same to him. You can, manipulate your genes to make yourself taller. But then if it's too late and your bones can't catch up to it, creates complications. But this has been a science that over the course of maybe a decade, people have been just tampering with on their own. And it's now finally taking a more formal approach. And there's a beauty to it not being what corporation isn't for profit? They are for profit. However, there's so many, and we'll get into it, but there's so many aspects of consideration that at least, man, they got the perfect guy for it. Ben Lamb is a great representative to make me feel confident that here is a company that is going to lean on this. They're going to side on the air of caution versus the side on the air of making money. So that's how they do it. One other thing that I wanted to acknowledge before we move into another clip is he's talking about going into the genetic strands of the DNA and pulling out, those rungs as you understand it, and switching out the different letter designation so it can, correspond to a totally different code. What's crazy is what the science has been before AI, before this company, has been they've had to, they could only manipulate. They were only willing to, because there was such a huge risk at drastic genetic modification, that the science has only been changing one genetic rung, having that replicated in the next offspring, and then manipulating it again. So it took literally generation by generation, leg by leg. Now with AI, they're going in and moving full chunks, and it's a perfect fit. So there, and another thing that Ben really emphasizes is like the little code of error between an Asian elephant and a woolly mammoth is less than 1%. And you got to live within that. And how drastic that 0.4%
Well, he
is.
said there's so many numbers.
And again, where would we be without AI to do that for us? And then you sit back and go, what happens when that consciousness gets control of itself and has the ability to make all these manipulations, and it makes us little gimp nuggets? Like we have no arms, like just
to me, the scariest thing with AI is I mean, that's not too far fetched from Terminator. I mean, that's you go look at that. You're trying to destroy all the robots. We're not too far removed from that. I mean, listen, Hollywood's not stupid. They've made all these movies because they know it's going to happen at some point outside of the super, super fictional stuff. They like to predict the future, and they're evil people. So
evil people. So while we discussed the woolly mammoth, the one that was truly accomplished was the dire wolf. And it's fascinating to hear the evolution to how they got here.
I just want to ask a question, and
please.
This will help some of the viewers out. What this company has done, and they've revived the dire wolf, or they've created the dire wolf, which is, or did that?
So this is the wolf from Game of Thrones, which is like about double to 3 times the size of a regular wolf.
Okay, and so you say revived, so it existed at some point.
It existed
prehistoric.
Prehistoric, yeah. It's kind of like the Saber-tooth tiger.
And they have these genetics, or they found fossils, and that's how they've kind of.
Let's get to that. Get to that, because that's one of the questions. Is like, where'd you get this DNA, and how did you develop? How did you develop it into? Because again, if it's 0.4% margin of error, where are you finding that DNA, and how are you confirming that it's?
How do they confirm that is and matches what it used to be? So when you say revive, is it a revive, or is it a revive with a slight change?
Yeah, like you said, like Jurassic Park, where it's like, if you remember that movie, they didn't replicate it by the DNA. They got some of the DNA from like mosquitoes, but they had to take like frog or certain other DNA to fill in the blanks. So like that's actually a great question.
It's a great question. And that a lot of this question is going to be that filling it. But see, boom. I'm going to save it. Let's get to it. Let's get good questions. First off, something that we know, the Smithsonian is a data collector, so they can control the narrative. They own all the information, and they give you the information necessary to control our perception. That's why they spent the early 1900s just collecting giant bones. So that way they never have to explain it. They never existed. What do you mean? For the beginning of Manifest Destiny, American farmers were fighting giants all over their farms. They don't exist anymore. What do you mean all the gold miners going through the Grand Canyon were finding giants and Egyptian artifacts everywhere? They don't exist anymore. So we know what the Smithsonian's purpose is. They collect all the data and they control the narrative. But do you know, kind of like how they burned down the Library of Alexandria, but all of it is in the bottom of the Vatican? Guess what? The Vatican probably knows Anunnaki data. They know how this floating rock of fun, they know how it started. Yeah. We don't. You want to know why? Because it kind of probably clashes with what they're selling us. Yeah. And that's coming from a Catholic. Yeah. But on the flip side, grounding it in what we're talking about, the Smithsonian has a basement full of all of these animals, data, genes, artifacts, and it's just there. And we've had conversations 10 times over recently about the Department of Justice. Doug hooked me onto the octopus murders on Netflix, and there's this great documentary. One of the concepts that they open the first episode up with, they're talking about in the first episode how the Department of Justice, first off, the government stole the lead system from this company that was creating. If you don't know what that is, it's like the criminal database for all criminals.
I'm going to have to watch this, Doug. Thank you.
Oh,
so
it's crazy.
The company that created it, the government just criminalized the owner and stole the company. And they're like, now this is our tool. And instead of Prime, we're calling it Leads. And so now the government owns Leads. They control the whole thing. And before Leads, they're talking. So like the contrast is before this, the Department of Justice was like a giant Kmart building, just full of files and desks and people. And they were like, yeah, you'd be working a case on a defendant and you'd be bumping into somebody from the other side of the warehouse that you haven't seen before. And they're like, oh my God, I'm running a case on the same defendant. We're doing the same thing. Because there was no centralized computer system.
So
you just had people. Exactly. Yeah. You had people in pockets in the same building, in the same department, that didn't even know they were running the same case, didn't even know they were reinventing the wheel, reinvestigating the same case in different corners of the building. So all of this going on, if you don't believe that's in the basement of all these museums, they didn't, like Joe Rogan said, 100 years ago, they didn't have it. And the museum librarian that was categorizing it all and control of it all that knew you're looking for that Tyrannosaurus tooth? It's over here by the monkey testicle. Like they knew exactly where it was.
Yeah.
That person's dead.
Yep.
And guess what? The newer generation, as we know, because they keep drinking the fluoride, see another good transition to the next topic, they just keep getting dumber. Yeah. So that person that took the baton has no idea it's right next to the monkey nut. And now it's lost.
Have you seen the drone footage? I don't want to say just drone footage. The footage from above of the Grand Canyon and other areas throughout not only our country, the globe, and they look like the rock formations.
Oh yeah, pyramids.
Look like not pyramids. These rock formations in the Grand Canyon and other areas. The pyramids obviously being man-made, but these rock formations
or alien-made
look like. Or that, but these rock formations look like large creatures, fossils. Like if you go look at certain parts of
some interesting ones.
The Grand Canyon, it honestly looks like a huge part of the canyon is a massive creature. And you start to look at the arms and the legs and the body and the nose and the eyes. It starts to be like, okay, were there massive creatures? Was this whole dinosaur thing that they're almost making fun of us now for even believing? It's kind of what it feels like, right? It's like we had all these movies out there and all the history books growing up were dinosaurs. Now it's like, no, those are kind of mystical creatures that didn't really exist ever in your life. And kind of what you're saying is.
But then where did all that oil come from? Because I learned that was all dinosaurs.
The Earth, you're running your whole life off of the Earth's blood.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. This living organism is providing it for you just like it does water. And it isn't dead dinosaurs that are running your car. But that's just my conspiracy. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah. Am I supposed to believe that dead dinosaurs are what's running my car?
No, like you said, that fantastical coloring book they sold us in grade school has fallen by the wayside even in the mainstream.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you said it perfectly. All of these prestigious historical buildings, whether it be in this country or somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Africa or somewhere else. Yeah, when the tops burn, that's almost intentional, in my opinion. They know what's underneath is the most important, and what can they do when the top burns? Oh, we lost this. Oh, we lost that. No, you didn't lose it. It's just like they say, you shouldn't burn books. Why? If you burn books, all of a sudden you just got rid of history. So the whole point is they're saying they're translating all of our current books. It's a slightly different topic, but they're taking all of our current books and they're making them electronic. Well, they're making electronic what they want to make electronic.
Exactly.
Everything else they're burning, they're getting rid of from our history, and we're never going to know. That history book, dude, in 30, 40 years from now, they're going to say January 6th was the worst thing that ever happened to this country. When anybody who lived it understands that it really wasn't that bad. It depends who gets a hold of it, but the BLM riots are going to be the same thing. If the wrong person or the right person gets a hold of it, the BLM riots were the worst thing that ever happened. They weren't great, but if you weren't in the part of the country they're happening, was it really the end all be all? No, it wasn't a civil war. It wasn't a this, it wasn't that. But it's all, they write the history books, so they get to determine the future. And it goes right into what you're saying. What's below? The person that passed away, that knew where that bone was, that was sitting next to the monkey testicles. Unfortunately, no one knows where it is anymore. There was probably one person above that person that knew where it's at, and that person went and just hid it in a different archive somewhere, and now no one will ever know that animal, that creature, that this existed. And we just have to listen to whatever the history books will tell us.
Don't try to science. Shut up and trust the science. Don't hypothesize and test our experiments here. You need to trust the science.
Remember when LeBron got mad when they told him to shut up and dribble? Don't tell me to shut up and just listen.
Don't tell me to shut up in science. I'm a science. No, so keeping us grounded in the topic of like the dire wolf. So first off, here's a Game of Thrones type character, like a dragon, that you never thought you'd actually see grounded in your reality. Now they're prancing like adorable dogs in, a field.
Wait, do we think we'll get dragons next? Because that would be so cool.
I want to ground us back in the topic.
Yeah, I want to fly on a dragon.
It's gonna come. My God. And it's funny, they don't talk about that at all. At least, I think I got 40 minutes left, and that hasn't come up yet. But
the dragons in
3 hours.
Was pretty cute.
So Ben makes the point to acknowledge that there's two things that his company has no intention of getting involved in, and it's humans and dinosaurs. And it's interesting because it makes you wonder, why not dinosaurs? Is it because it's not possible? Because there's a train of thought and consideration that believes you couldn't do it even if you wanted to, because it's bullshit. We're starting to wake up to the fact that it's bullshit. But even if it wasn't, are you telling me that the croc? So hold on. Okay, now you know what? I am gonna tinfoil hat's going on. Okay, I'm supposed to live in a world where, what's so cool about seeing an alligator? The alligator of today was the alligator of the dinosaurs. And you know what's funny is, at 13, I was able to believe the fact that they're like, no. The alligators, you see, they're water animals. So the asteroids came, we think. We got 5 other different theories of how that happened, but so I could convince you of why alligators didn't get affected. We're going to stick with the asteroids. Don't compartmentalize your thinking. So if it's the asteroids, you got to think the alligator was able to go nice and deep in the water, and it wasn't affected. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, Spoonfield eating this bullshit. Oh my God, you are so right.
An asteroid touches the water and stops.
So everything got killed except for the alligators, because the alligators were in the water. Yeah, and like you said, it hits the water and stops, or, it can't burn. Okay. But then why did the giant, again, not a dinosaur guy, but the giant things with the long necks, like the Loch Ness Monster, or Sally or Sully. What's the lake monster, Doug? Help me out here. Get off your phone for a second.
Nessie.
Why did that one die by the asteroids? Nessie, this long serpent?
Nessie didn't die. Nessie is very well still alive, sir. She's hanging out in the loch.
Well, you know what? It's got to be one or the other. It's either it died in the water and now we got a loophole in the dinosaur theory, or
dinosaurs
nothing dies in the water and we should have a megalodon. and Nessie's still alive. I'm just saying there's holes in this whole thing. Like
huge holes.
But we pretend. Anyway.
Well, let me talk about the alligator. So I was just in Florida for an extended period of time, and I decided to go 20 minutes away, and I went on a hike through this park called Blue Run Denellen Park. Anybody's ever been, it's a gorgeous park, but there do happen to be quite a few alligators in this park, and all the locals are pointing them out and saying how cool they are and how quickly they swim. And oh, why aren't you hopping in the water? I'm like, because you see that thing over there? It's got a big mouth on it. Yeah, it's going to come eat me if I jump in the water. They go, no, you don't understand. They're so shy. They're so scared.
More afraid of you than you are.
Yeah, they go,
until it's rolling your leg off.
Unless you're feeding it. And I go, well, I don't know if other people have fed it.
Dude, you are feed.
Yeah. But the whole
you are feed.
Whole point of the story is I'm on the way back, and my Uber driver asked me, he goes, well, did you hop in the water? I go, heck no, I didn't hop in the water for all the reasons I had just explained. And he goes, well, they're more scared of you than you are of them. I go, I'm not sure that's possible, because I was deathly scared of them. But he tells me that the whole movie of Tarzan, or a big portion of Tarzan, was filmed there. When the airboats come through and all the gators jump in the water, going back to your first topic, they digitally edited the movie to make it look like the alligators were going after the people. But what the alligators actually are doing, and I think this goes into your theory of what they tried to convince us on. What the alligators are actually doing when the airboat comes through is they're scared. So they are scared of the people, the noise, and they're trying to find the safest spot. The safest spot for them is at the bottom of the river. Now, this is where they're wrong in their whole thinking. The theory is, asteroid comes through this river, I'm telling you, is no more than 15, 20 feet deep. Okay? An asteroid coming from space touches the water, is not stopping once it hits the water. That thing is going into the bottom of that river,
making a big old crater
through the earth, and creating the massive crater that is now the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I'm just picturing.
Yeah. But to bring it back, everyone's sitting there saying these alligators are so friendly, this and that. First and foremost, I can't imagine any alligator that's a friendly creature if you put something that they're hungry. They're hungry. They're biting it.
Like I said, you are food.
Yes. Second off, they do use alligators for filming because they edit their movements pretty quickly. Third off, they do look like dinosaurs, but that's the closest thing that they can relate.
That's what I'm saying.
To a dinosaur.
The reason we even bring up the alligator.
Yet they haven't evolved at all?
They haven't evolved at all. They are the modern embodiment of a dinosaur that survived that age, and yet not all the other water dinosaurs survived. That's where you lost my logic. Is what makes the alligator so superior? It's not like they go deeper than megalodons.
The alligator, the reason it goes to the bottom from when the boat goes through was because they were trying to find safety. But they're only going down for seconds because guess how they breathe? Out of their nose. Yeah. And if that nose is underwater for an extended period of time, now all of a sudden, I continue. That's the only part that's evolved in the dinosaur. I think their logic in this theory
something's fishy. So did they bring about an extinct piece of our past? I don't know. Or did they just jumble up some wolf DNA and come up with a unique version of a wolf? That sounds likely, but also either way, we're dealing with a very unique and sophisticated evolution of science. So I think I have one or two more left. So let's just get into it. Two more left. Check them out.
3 dark.
I just want to say it's I think little short-sighted of Ben to dismiss the concept that it comes that they would potentially be red-coated because they're going through the characteristics: larger cranium, thicker mane, thicker pelt, larger in size, longer in size. But one of the unique things, and this all comes full circle to one of your first inquiries, and this comes to our last clip. You had asked, where are they getting this from? How are they filling it in? Doug goes, yeah, I watched Jurassic Park. They had to go to a frog and a couple lizards to complete the scale here. So how did they go within the genome and plug in these holes? There is there is an endangered species of wolves called the red wolf. And there is a very unique story that Ben gives about how they were able to discover the necessary DNA to complete this genome using the red wolf, but not necessarily where they initially thought they would. So, again, this is our last clip, and it's just a unique
And this is
way.
where you're saying this is why you wish he wouldn't dismiss the color of the wolf so quickly, because if you're using part of the red wolf,
right, it's like
within its name is
well,
the color
because
of the
he's
wolf.
taking the position of we did it and nobody else has yet.
Yeah.
So he's looking at the scientists
There's a
that
marketing
haven't.
aspect to it
Well,
that-
there's
yeah,
like an
that makes
ego
sense.
of like
Yeah.
you thought you were looking in the right place, but you read it wrong. Yeah, you were looking at the red wolf, but it's a white coat. It's like, yeah, dude, you only knew that after it came out the mama.
Yeah.
No, because Game of Thrones showed us they could be white.
Oh,
don't forget about Ghost, the only one that survived.
He watched that in his living room.
The only one that
He
survived.
didn't go to the movie theater to watch that.
You don't go to the movie theater to watch Game of Thrones, Steve.
I love the theory.
You have religious, you have philosophical, and then
It's a All right, Leslie. We're listening too much of Joe Rogan.
I really don't know, but I was pulling it up just to make sure it was streaming. Then, like as Joe Rogan is talking, boom.
Peculiar. Doug's bringing to my attention that YouTube has pulled our episode. So again, moot point. But you know what? I didn't mean to interrupt. Let's finish just this wrapping thought, because what I'm realizing, this is not the clip. I have it saved, but it was very extensive. What's cool about the red wolf is they thought there was this very small population in North Carolina. That's what they were going off of. And they said that this is the red wolf population. They then found another population of wolf that wasn't considered by the system the red wolf, but after pulling its DNA was closer to the dire wolf and the red wolf itself than the actual wolf that they're designating as a red wolf, because it's like an evolved extinct animal. And let me close the point out because I want you guys to hear it. There's a really unique perspective behind what we interpret genes to be in our human practice versus what genes really are. And since I guess we're not on YouTube, it doesn't matter. I can say the word, but it really opens the door to what's wrong with bestiality at this point, because it's just a mix of genes. Because in that conversation about wolves, what they talk about is like everything's got a mix of coyote in it. Like they're getting like it's when they're ciphering through all these different wolves and all these different DNA, everything's got coyote in it. And it's like, wait, but they're not the same. How are they doing? It's because we have a human projection on genes, and then there's just nature. And it's like, maybe you only get you know, I'm trying to think of something that like a platypus. You only get a platypus when a duck gets with you know, a beaver, and now you got a platypus. It's like,
that's actually a great union right there. I was thinking, I'm like, what's he gonna go with to get a platypus?
Well, I got you there.
Say octopus.
Well, don't worry, I got you there, Doug. I got you.
That was a good one. I
got
gotta tell you, touche, sir. Way to know your animals.
Well, in order to get back on YouTube, I think you helped yourself out. You said they, them. So
it's right.
Those pronouns are helping you out.
Please, YouTube, love me, YouTube.
Real quick, I do have a question. The gentleman with Joe Rogan was speaking how he said
gestation.
They haven't tried to create a rhino in this
in a gestation sac
in this womb yet.
Yeah,
and he doesn't plan to. He
so
said,
you know what's cool that
he
we
said,
gloss over?
This is my question. He asked about, or he said, not FDA approved.
We're literally back. YouTube gave us back.
They, them. I love it. What is the FDA approving in this whole process? To me, they shouldn't be approving any of it, or they should be approving all of it. Like anybody should be allowed to go produce another creature if they want to. Or when I don't agree with that, but all
you gonna go full Frankenstein on me?
No, but all of a sudden if they're gonna allow them to do it,
No. You got to be an entity worth enough money to buy a license or, petition for.
But it sounds like they've got the approval to do humans if they want to do humans.
Yeah, and
they're not about that. Okay, well, who else has approval that's into changing the humans or creating the psychopath he said he didn't want to create?
It is crazy, though. One of the things that he gets to that we kind of just glossed by is how humans are easier to create in an artificial womb than all the other animals. And it's like, if that doesn't justify the theory that we are alien DNA mixed with animal DNA, then I don't know what does.
If you don't think there's clones of all these famous people by now, I'm sorry, there are.
Ew. Seriously, dude, that is a great point. That, you know what, Will, I got to tell you, Will, it was the universe. It was meant to be that Will didn't join us today. I needed Steve to match my crazy for somebody to bring it. You're so right, dude. How do you have a CRISPR reviving direwolf dialogue without acknowledging that they've definitely been cloning people?
If especially what you are saying is true, that it is easier to edit, change the DNA of a human.
No. The comment I was really making in that one was gestation in an artificial womb. So
okay,
for
but still,
human,
if it's easier to do it there,
what makes the rhino harder is you need to find a rhino womb. You can't use like an artificial womb.
Yeah. Regardless, it's basically easier in the grand scheme of things.
That's totally true. That's still the
there's enough actual video footage off of somebody's cell phone that kind of shows there has been famous people cloned. And if you like, I've seen
Hillary Clinton.
I've seen a lot of Joe Bidens out there, but it's just saying.
Doug, what do you got for us? You're raising your hand over there.
No, yeah, because you're so happy that he matches your crazy mentioning cloning. Dude, one of my favorite shows on Netflix is literally just all conspiracy theory cartoon. And I've literally tried to get you to watch that a million times. One of the episodes you have, good man, Inside Job on Netflix. Literally every episode is just about every conspiracy theory out there. Lizard people, cloning.
So where do the clones come in? Bring a full circle.
Because there's a whole episode of cloning, and they have a whole room of clones of celebrities, and one of them is they have a whole bunch of JFKs.
Oh, it's a great
whole
cartoon.
bunch of JFKs, so that if they ever need to, they can film any additional videos that they might need.
Watching that cartoon is how Doug learned his parents are lizards.
My parents are lizard people. They love the heat. It could be 100 degrees outside. My dad will open up every door and window in the house and be like, "Man, this feels good."
It's okay.
Chief Wahoo. No one saw the Chief Wahoo. You gotta display the Chief Wahoo.
Woo! Long live the Chief, baby.
So they keep opening the windows. Must be lizards.
100-degree day, and you want to open up the windows and not turn on the AC? I do question their genetics. I'm sorry.
Cold-blooded. They're cold-blooded.
Oh, they are cold-blooded.
Well, let me ask a question about Inside Jobs. So it's a cartoon based on conspiracy.
Oh, dude, you gotta watch it.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It's literally a girl's dad is the head of the Illuminati, and she goes.
No.
With her
Specifically,
dad.
they're not the Illuminati. The Illuminati come in an episode in season 2. They're specifically a different secret organization.
The whole show is all cartoons, though. Is what the whole.
Oh,
show
it's a cartoon. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's an anime.
You'll like it.
Oh my god.
It's not an anime. It's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon. Whatever. Animated. Whatever.
They're not the same.
So,
but no, it's great, and they canceled it after only 2 seasons, and I'm still salty about it because season 3 could have been awesome.
Can you tell this is still right on vein with the dire wolf?
Well, who canceled it? The lizards, aka your parents?
Oh, I think the lizards did not like being put, or the Illuminati. Who knows? They made fun of a lot of organizations.
Fantastic. So we have really departed from an groundbreaking moment. So let's close out this topic, wrapping thoughts. Here's what's awesome. We got woolly mice, and at least these folks are like, hey, we're not in it for the money. So we're not going to mass produce a pet woolly mouse. And it would be creepy because that didn't exist. So there is a lot as he
imagine that getting out in the wild, dude. A species that doesn't exist and it gets out in the wild because they gave it to people as pets. Think about
like a bat.
Or like you flush a baby gator down the toilet and then you got a gator in the sewers.
I hate when those bats get out. That's the worst.
Or Alex circling back.
Inconvenience.
Circling back to the goldfish. You flush a goldfish down the toilet, it grows big.
You can't forget about the
Colossal
bat you
goldfish.
just mentioned, though.
Yeah.
The bat?
Watch out for the bat.
No, not the torpedo bat.
Well, Shohei Ohtani's still hitting this one too.
Well, where's he? Oh, he's from Japan. But
It's the same thing. Anyway, full circle. Let's ground this thing. Wrapping thoughts. There's a lot of interesting moral considerations here. You made a woolly mouse. That mouse didn't exist before. Are we going to let people like make a dog with 8 octopus arms? Like at some point we go, that's too far. Well, who gets to decide that? I guess we're going to come to the realization that nobody's deciding that. This is the wild, wild west of science, and it's either all or nothing. And we recognize that we do not and will not live in the world of nothing. So I guess we're accepting all, which means we got to buckle up for some Spy Kids 2 craziness. That being said, my wrapping thought is going to be, this is so incredibly awesome. As a test tube baby, I personally find support for this type of science.
Wait, you were a test tube baby?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Wow. I've said it before on the show. Doug, get off your phone and pay attention more. You'd catch a lot of these little
I actually
Easter
probably
eggs.
should know that about you, so it's probably on me.
Oh, no, probably. It is. So, that being said, I can have an appreciation for, Andrew Schultz just had his comedy special, and all of it was about IVF and having a kid through, intravenous fertilization. So it's an interesting science that's becoming increasingly more necessary as our balls just keep getting weighed down by plastic. So it's getting nature to the finish line, no matter how pretty or ugly that may look. And one of the cool things is this first step that we get to experience, a dire wolf, as the gentlemen like Joe or Ben get to acknowledge, they're beautiful. And as they age and continuously, mature in their majesty, we only get more excited. We only revel in their beauty more. Now, what'll get scary, this conversation starts talking about these colossal bears, the megalodon shark, all these other, where do you draw that line? Right now, it's a wolf. That's a predator, but it's a manageable predator. They were talking about one of these bears that's like a polar bear, the aggressiveness and ferociousness of a polar bear, but like 3 to 4 times its size. And he goes, don't be making that. And he's like, oh, no, we aren't. But again, if you're leaving the science open sourced for all of humanity to benefit from, there is a Dr. Frankenstein we need to be worried about. So I raise the concern, not in the statement that we could get ahead of it and stop it. It's more than anything the acknowledgement that it's here. There's nothing you could do about it. And get your popcorn because you got a front row seat to Jurassic Park. Steve, what are your wrapping thoughts?
I mean, I could not agree more with what you just said. That is the scariest part, is understanding and knowing that there are majority good people in this world, but there could be the bad person that is smart enough to get a hold of that technology or that capability where, okay, let's just throw this shark into the ocean for some fun today and see what happens. And all of a sudden it reproduces a time or two, and now all of a sudden all of our beaches are taken over by these sharks that don't even allow you to go swimming, or a polar bear. When you talk about that polar bear with that ferociousness and that aggressiveness, but 3-4 times the size, if they're that large, one bullet doesn't take them out. 2 bullets doesn't take them out. You need a freaking rocket launcher at that point just to survive. And that's where surviving with these things becomes next to impossible. And where you look at the history of, are these fossils, are these science organizations telling us the truth about what they've discovered, that begs the question to understand what truly is happening out there with people, with AI, with DNA, with other things, what truly is happening. So I hope that the good people only keep reproducing, and let's not reproduce bad people.
Seriously.
That's my final thought on that.
Doug, what are your wrapping thoughts?
pretty much like kind of what you said. Like, I hope because they're putting it open source, which is cool, you know, like that is cool. They're doing it. But I hope there's not like a mad scientist out there that's like, I want to create my minion dinosaur and destroy mankind. You know, like there's the mad scientist out there that's going to read that and be like, well, I think I have the skills to do that.
And
like Frankenstein.
I love that point, because closing the topic out again, I think anybody that this sparked interest in should definitely go listen to Ben Lamb, episode 2301 on the Joe Rogan Experience. But one of the cool things Joe just straight up asked him. So the guy's going on a diatribe about how they bring in like a whole fleet of experts that right now, none of the species they've created and worked upon have been re-released. And that's something they're developing, is how do you release this into the wild? Doug brings up how we did a segment on colossal goldfish on this show, on how goldfish are just they're, 2.5 feet, huge 30-pound fish that are all over, and they're taking over lakes. And it's because you're flushing your goldfish. It isn't dead. And now they're in endanger, they have no predators. They're taking it over. That all being said, he's like, who are these experts? He straight up does ask this. Who are these experts? Like, who are these people? You're bringing them into your studio. How are they able to determine some animal that's never existed is or is not going to be a problem
and how are they
in the
expert?
Ecosystem? Yeah,
on
how are
something
they
that's never existed?
How are you an expert on dire wolves' existence in the forest? Well, they say, of course, I'm not an expert on dire wolves, but I'm an exact money, bingo. But also, I have enough of an understanding of the other types of relationships of ecosystems that I could be the best apt to predict.
I've watched more Game of Thrones
prediction.
episodes than this other person, so I'm the best to determine.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they get the wise.
So
DB
again,
wise
let's bring it back to Doug's point. Are we really going to believe that the mad scientist that wants minion dinosaurs is going to have a fleet of, at least this guy, Ben Lamb's trying.
Yeah.
He's got the best he can. No one's touched a dire wolf, and they're trying.
And to Doug's point, I mean, we're all mad scientists sitting around a table trying to rethink the world, right? Rethink different ideas. There's other people out there trying to rethink evil. And that is, to Doug's point, spot on. There is crazy people out there, no matter as much as you try to, as much as to my point, trying to get not reproducing evil people. You can't do that. That's with these things, especially, that's all you're doing. This goes back to the whole Minecraft thing. The reason those kids are doing that is because they've grown up with this in their hand. They don't know any better than disrupting the public's funny, and it gets views, and that gets me paid, and money's everything. Just translates throughout their life to thinking it's okay.
Flashlight's on, by the way.
It's all good.
I didn't want your phone dying.
And it's just that's hopefully brought the conversation full circle.
Your wrapping thought, you said it, I was going to raise it, and now you're enforcing I have to. A philosophy my grandma used to say all the time was 50% of the world wakes up every day trying to figure out ways they can screw over the other 50%. So 50% of those people are going to have access to this tool now, and we might have a problem.
Yeah.
That's why grab your popcorn, because I'm getting express passes at the Jurassic Park. All right, last topic of the day here. Not a lot of media, just a lot of commentary. We got to keep it short because holy heck, if we had a dense episode for you today. But our last topic of the day is groundbreaking, I think, in American culture, and literally, I think, in our consideration of health and science. Utah has become the first state to ban fluoride in water. And a beauty that follows behind that is that Florida and Ohio are the next to be considering the same thing. Let's get into it, because I walked this road with a lot of consideration. I sat here and, I live, as I'm told, I live in a world of conspiracies. It's not grounded in reality. And so it's been scary for these boomers that have been raised by the CIA for our conspiracy science on fluoride to be creeping into their reality. More and more have the authorities on the matter been willing to acknowledge the fact that fluoride is an increasing danger. Now, as one that is not innocent till proven guilty, allow me to prove myself and my position. And it isn't my position. It's science and truth's position. The story of fluoride and its journey into drinking water is a fascinating blend of scientific discovery, industrial pragmatism, and public health policy. While the idea that fluoride was simply too expensive to dispose of traditionally oversimplifies the narrative, there's an element of truth in how industrial byproducts influenced its widespread use. Let's dive into the history. Fluoride itself isn't owned by any one entity. It's a naturally occurring mineral found in rocks, soil, and water. However, the fluoride compounds used in water fluoridation, like fluorosilicic acid, has ties to industrial processes. The story begins in the early 20th century with a dentist named Frederick McKay, who noticed something odd in Colorado Springs around 1901. Many residents had brown-stained teeth, a condition later called fluorosis, yet their teeth were remarkably resistant to decay. McKay's curiosity led him to investigate, and by 1931, with the help from H.V. Churchill, a chemist at the Aluminum Company of America, they both confirmed that the high levels of naturally occurring fluoride in the water were responsible for this strength against tooth decay. This discovery piqued the interest of Dr. H. Trenley Dean, a public health service researcher. In the 1930s, Dean studied fluoride levels across the United States and found that about 1 part per million of fluoride prevented cavities without causing significant fluorosis. Right there, through my process of developing this narrative, I go, okay, what's the dangerous parts per million? Want to know what the Cleveland Clinic said was dangerous? 1.5 parts per million. That's how fine the line is that we're walking. This set the stage for a revolutionary idea. Adding fluoride to water supplies to improve the dental health. In 1945, Grand Rapids, Michigan became the first city to test this theory, adjusting its water to 1 parts per million. The results were striking. After a decade, cavity rates among children dropped by over 60%. Now, here's where the industry enters the picture. The fluoride added to the water isn't the pure, naturally occurring kind that McKay studied. It's often fluorosilicic acid, a byproduct of phosphate fertilizer production. In Central Florida's Bone Valley, companies like Mosaic mined phosphate rock to make fertilizer. During this process, they scrub fluoride gases released by the rock with water, creating fluorosilicic acid. Historically, this was a waste product. Disposing of it safely was a challenge. Neutralizing and landfilling it required effort and cost, especially given its corrosive nature and the environmental regulations emerging by the mid-20th century. Entering water fluoridation. By the 1950s, as the practice gained traction, fertilizer companies found a convenient outlet, selling fluorosilicic acid to municipalities for water treatment turned a disposal headache into a profit stream. This was a cheaper, mutually beneficial solution for the fertilizer companies and the municipalities they served. The phosphate industry could offload a byproduct, and cities got an affordable source of fluoride, about 15 cents to the dollar per person per year, which is far less than dental treatment costs. Public health officials backed by organizations like the American Dental Association and the CDC, those that love to get paid off, saw fluoridation as a win-win, a cheap, effective way to reduce tooth decay, especially for underserved populations. The fertilizer industry's role was more opportunistic than sinister. Documents from the era show companies like the ALCOA and Reynolds Metals also supplied sodium fluoride early on. But was doing good for
Fluorosilicic.
Yes, fluorosilicic acid from the phosphate production became dominant due to its abundance and lower cost. Critics, however, point to the industrial origin as a red flag. They argue that using a byproduct with trace impurities like arsenic or lead raises a safety question. Now let's bring it full circle. So is it dangerous? They're telling us it's not something to be a problem. The thing that has been a major consideration of mine is, why is there then such an outward effort at ignoring the evolution of science that says we might want to be concerned? So industries like the phosphate mining shape the modern use of fluoride, but the advocates aren't wrong when they say that this transition was encouraged by the experts in the scientific field. Adding it to water wasn't just about disposal. It has been branded as a practical convergence of science and economics. Traditional disposal methods like neutralization or storage were viable, but less efficient than selling it for public health purposes. Today, about 72% of Americans on public health, 72% of Americans on public water systems drink fluoridated water, a legacy of this unusual partnership between dentistry and industry, one that's hailed as a public health triumph by some and questioned as a compromise by others. While the community water fluoridation has been widely endorsed as a safe and effective public health measure to prevent tooth decay, concerns about potential risk, particularly related to neurodevelopmental effects, skeletal health, and other systemic issues have persisted. It is argued that these concerns have not always received the attention they deserved due to entrenched beliefs, institutional biases, and economic interests. Below are some ways in which this dynamic may have played out based on available evidence and perspectives. One key issue is the influence of confirmation bias and established narratives. For over 75 years, fluoridation has been championed by major health organizations like the Centers of Disease Control and the American Dental Association, which have labeled it a major public health achievement. This long-standing endorsement may have created a reluctance to fully explore or publicize emerging evidence suggesting potential risks. For instance, early studies on fluoride safety many conducted before 1975, which also toothpaste didn't become normalized until the 40s and into actual production well into the 50s and 60s. So heaven forbid, the more we use toothpaste, the more we clean our mouth, be, I don't know, a factor in this consideration, but I'm no doctor. But this often limited the scope and methodology, yet their conclusions were broadly accepted without rigorous reevaluation as new tools and data became available. Critics suggest that this reflects a tendency to dismiss findings that challenge the prevailing view, a phenomenon seen in other scientific controversies like lead exposure. Boy, go down that rabbit hole and your stomach will turn, where the industry's influence and expert skepticisms delayed its actual action. Another factor is the slow response to research and fluoride's potential neurodevelopmental effects. Until recently, studies examining fluoride exposure during pregnancy and its impact on child cognition were scarce in North America. Despite fluoride's widespread use, when a Canadian study in 2019 linked higher paternal fluoride exposure to lower IQs in children, it faced significant backlash. Let it be known that the National Toxicology Program, in a U.S. agency, also confirmed that fluoride exposure leads to neurodevelopmental and cognition issues. Even additional studies over the next few years echoed similar findings. This resistance may stem from a reluctance to shift policy based on new, albeit consistent, evidence, especially when it contradicts decades of orthodoxy. This is where it really gets fishy. Going back to the National Toxicology Program's, its 2024 report just last year, as I indicated, the Cleveland Clinic also concluded that a moderate confidence that fluoride levels above 1.5 milligrams per liter are associated with lower IQ in children was reportedly delayed in its release, raising questions about whether federal officials hesitated to publicize its findings that could fuel public debate on, I don't know, maybe stop poisoning my water. Also, there's economic and industrial interests that may have delayed this role here. Fluorides compounds used in water fluoridation, such as say it, Doug.
Fluorosilicic
acid. He loves just playing on his phone. He just comes here to drink.
Playing on my phone, but I did need to see it to make sure.
Byproducts of the phosphate fertilizer industry. Opponents argue that this creates a vested interest in promoting fluoridation as a safe disposal method, potentially overshadowing health concerns. Historical examples like the involvement of aluminum industry figures in early fluoridation advocacy. It fuels speculation that commercial priorities have influenced scientific discourse, though direct evidence of suppression in recent decades is less clear. I want to just get to the final point here, which is the polarizing nature of the fluoride debate has likely stifled nuanced discussion. Opponents, sometimes dismissed as conspiracy theorists, have been marginalized even when raising legitimate scientific questions. This polarization can discourage researchers from pursuing controversial topics due to reputational risks or fear of being labeled anti-science. Meanwhile, proponents may downplay uncertainties, pointing to the lack of conclusive evidence at the recommended levels of 0.7 parts per million, rather than engaging with higher exposure scenarios that dominate much of the critical research. So in summary, the science around the fluoride dangers may have been stifled or ignored through a combination of entrenched institutional support, delayed responses to emerging evidence, potential economic influences, skewed research priorities, and a divisive public discourse. While fluoridation's benefits are well documented, the reluctance to fully address or fund studies on its risks are particularly at levels exceeding current recommendations. This has left gaps in the understanding that critics argue have been too easily overlooked. The tension reflects broader challenges in science when the new evidence clashes with long-held beliefs or powerful interests. So, putting the cap on this whole dialogue here, the most important fact that I take away through this long road I investigated, it's that we can only have a tiny, tiny bit. And it has a great effect on our teeth. As we make fun of the Europeans on how their teeth compare to ours, it is because we take such a serious approach to our dental hygiene. However, the reason this has become a major concern, and you're going to see a snowball effect across the states, Utah being the first, Ohio and Florida will follow, and the rest will domino. It's because, again, 1 part per million versus 1.5 parts per million. And we're learning through our food, through brushing our teeth. There's so much fluoride in our toothpaste anymore. And if it wasn't something dangerous, then why would a company find any financial benefit in making fluoride-free toothpaste? Why is there a market for it if there isn't some sort of justified demand? So I only get to, you have a fine line between 1 parts per million and 1.5 parts per million. And so one of the things we experience is when the government has the intention of 1 parts per million, but then through the reality of testing, we had a poison recently, I think it was in Michigan, where an accidental full tank dumped in, and there's a girl that there's deaths from it, and there's a girl with long-term health issues because of it. And so you have these instances where it isn't perfect. So not only are you going to get it in waves where it's higher, it's lower, it's higher, it's lower, but then what if you did get a perfect system where it's consistently at 1 parts per million perfectly? The problem is our modern lifestyle has fluoride in it elsewhere, to where now just living your life is getting you that extra 0.5, 1 point, 1.5. So you're going well above that 1 parts per million that is making this a drastic issue. And it's exciting that we finally get to have these conversations about it.
I think a big part to that whole thing too is if you go back to the study that individual did, he had like 4 or 5 different parts to his name. So I apologize for not remembering it. But when he did that study prior to fluoride being put into water, he was using a different form of fluoride.
The natural fluoride.
That what they're using is a byproduct of fertilization being made, and that's the fluoride that's going in our water. I think that's a starting point to this whole thing. Is it one, affordable to put the right form of fluoride in the water for our whole country to drink? I'm assuming that answer is a quick no, which is why we haven't done it to begin with.
Well, you mentioned that too, the natural versus the whatever. What about the place where this natural occurring stuff is? Well, that water is probably being processed by a water treatment plant and having even more added to it, I bet.
I mean, it sounds pretty good. Putting fluoride into something that comes naturally from a rock. Yeah, I'm okay doing that. But
rocks are natural filtration.
When I drink fluoride in my water that's coming from a byproduct of fertilizer being manufactured, that sounds a lot. Just on the looks of it.
Here's what I'm saying.
Without having any health benefits in front of my face or consequences.
If there is, these people aren't just disposing of it; they are selling it to the government. So when you have people that have a financial interest in continuously shoveling the cash, they also therefore have a financial interest in making sure we don't learn about how it's suppressing the mitochondria in our brain.
You could not have said it any better than that. And why do we sell our trash to third world countries? Because they want money, and we will sell our trash to them because they're going to burn it. You're not allowed to burn trash in this country. So I mean,
we're the fertilizer company's third world country.
Well, that's a great way to put it, honestly. And it's going into our bodies. That's what we're drinking out of any tap water that you get. That's
jeez.
And that's why beer built the West. They didn't have clean drinking water, so you know what they drank? They drank beer and alcohol, and that's why beer built the West. You hear that? It's true. It's because they didn't have fluoride or water.
Limestone in Kentucky do to the water? It gets all the impurities out of it. So they use it there to make their bourbon.
So let's put it like this. And, I flip it to the people in the comments and the folks that are joining us. I'd like to get your opinion and your thoughts, be a part of the discourse. But I flip it to the guys joining us here in the room. Do you think this is the sign of a fruitful beginning? This is a good sign. I mean, RFK Jr. was just on the news. I could have had the clip, but I don't want to bore you with more media. But he was just on the news like a day and a half ago saying about how great this is. Are we in agreement? Is this something we could get excited about? Or is this just, conspiracy theory hubbaloo that's going to leave us all with rotten teeth and European mouths?
I think if it's done just as I agree with most situations, if it's done in the right manner, I think it's the right step forward. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but just like the tariffs, I think you have to give it time. Give it time with what we think is the right approach. Give it time, test the studies. If it's not killing people 1 second after drinking it, I think give it time to let it play out to see if this is the right approach. Or do people that are willing to partake in these studies or sample researches, have people that are willing to do that and get involved. I'd raise my hand for that in a heartbeat. Based on everything I've read, the fluoride that's being put in our city waters, our city's waters, are being manipulated, and it's not that natural fluoride that comes from the rocks and stones.
I love that point. And so let's transit. We've exhausted this episode. It's been a long one, a super dense one. So let's get into our wrapping thoughts. I've said it recently on the show, and I've got a podcast coming out this Thursday with a great friend, Akifa, who is brilliant. And so you got to check out her episode coming out. But one of the things that we talk about is the beauty of being in this country of 50 different states. And we're not one giant conglomerate. We're 50 different states. And so while I sit here in Ohio, super thrilled about the evolution, the baton that Utah is carrying, some blue-haired psycho full of fluoride in New York can sit there and go, y'all are a bunch of idiots. And that's the beauty of this country, is then don't live in the place that's doing this. Or if we all agree and this is what we want, then this is how we're going to move forward. When I look at the issue itself, let's just like Occam's razor. Let's start peeling back the layers of the onion. Okay, so there is science that confirms it damages our development, our skeleton, and has major brain issues. And then they've proactively tried to stifle that. Yep, that's the move of a good guy. They are selling this. It's a byproduct that is waste, and it would cost more money to effectively dispose of it. And you're a garbage disposal. That sounds like it's got good intention. So much of this is driven by profit, and so let me dig in that onion a little bit deeper to find the layers that I'm supposed to get excited about. You see this? My parents spent a good amount of money on this bad boy, and I don't find a problem like I need fluoride. So why is it your jacked tooth mouth is going to tell me what I should have in my water? It has gotten first off, I implore you all to start questioning why you're getting white calcium buildups from your water. Like if you use the same water jug every day, why is it getting that way if it's water? Because there's other stuff in it. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to live in a world where you're drinking like ionized water and it's like, no, you need your minerals. And that's the delicate line we're walking. But guess what? Silly me. Fluoride isn't one of those minerals. That's what's crazy, is you're taking the fluoride for your teeth. And then they're like, oh yeah, but we forgot in our modern society, there's fluoride in all these other 10 different ways. So you're getting what you need in terms of providing for your teeth, but then you're overdoing it and corroding your brain. So I think, to me, the science is obvious, and that's why I love that my state is going to be at the we're always at the beginning of truth and betterment.
Real quick though, with the fluoride comment there, and I think part of it is a conversation about what people care to look like. I think a huge part of this conversation is I don't think people really care what's happening to their brain as long as they look good for the 20 years they care to look good.
You're so right.
And so as long as they care to look good for those 20 years, they'll
you nailed it.
They don't care to look past 50 years. I mean, the way they're spending their money, the way that
comfortably
they're
numb
living their life, they hope they're dead by 50. I don't think they hope that they're dead, but they're not looking past the age of 50. Most people can't work very efficiently unless it's a strictly brain job.
How many people are working for getting drunk on Friday?
Yeah.
Like I just drone through my week so I can, what is my reward? I hate my job. It's been tough, just so I could just unplug and go into vegetable state for 2 days.
They work their asses off for 5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day, only to forget their weekends. That's the craziest part to me, is you work so hard all day long, all week long, only to forget your Friday night, your Saturday night, and then what do you do on Sunday? You sit down, and if it's football season, you're watching football. If it's not football season, you're watching Netflix and recovering on Sunday. Let me go back to work on Monday.
Let me close my thought out with this, something that I think you'll truly resonate with, hopefully. We live in this world where everybody shoot. Sorry, Doug. I totally got distracted over the fact that you've never used this middle camera this episode, to where I totally lost my train of thought.
I haven't used that middle camera. Yeah.
I just said that, Doug. Thank you.
Usually you don't want me to.
Never.
Well, you got this pretty face. You got to use it all.
There you go. You can have your middle camera. There you go.
Thanks, Doug. You've been on it.
Don't worry.
What was your wrapping thought? What was even the thought you had? Oh, here's what I got. My wrapping thought is going to be this. And I'll talk to this because Doug's being a sourpuss that wants to get lost in his phone again. I get frustrated when people are like, you talk politics. I don't like talking politics. I'm better than I don't talk politics. And one of the metaphors I draw upon all the time is, you think I like talking politics? I don't like being designated as the one that talks politics. But you know what it is? I talk life. This is life. This is life. The water you're drinking is burning your brain. And you are like, well, I just want to go back to Fortnite. Like, you're getting in the way of me going back to Minecraft. I'm trying to unplug, and you're making me think. And so the way I look at life is, you say I talk politics. I obsess over politics. I really just think you prefer to be taken advantage of than having to confront the real actors of evil in your life. My metaphor I use all the time is, imagine we're all playing in a sandbox and it's run by a dictator. Everybody in our world just wants to play in the sand. Stop getting in the way. I'm trying to build a sandcastle. And I'm hyper focused on the walls. Like the walls. They're closing in. They're getting taller. They're getting bigger. Y'all want to keep playing in the sand. We need to start talking about the walls. And so that's what I think is a perfect reflection on this topic. That, like, for the folks that don't give a shit about the fluoride, you deserve the fluoride in your brain. And I'm sorry, I'm going to double back to the reason you don't give a shit about the fluoride in your brain is because you've got more of it in there than me.
Yeah. And to that point, you said how this shouldn't be political and this and that. And I couldn't agree more. I don't think this topic is any bit close to political, but they've made it. When I say they, I don't know who exactly they are, but there's a group of people that's made it political. And to your original point,
fluoride.
I think that's how this podcast got started. Was it doesn't matter what side, far left, far right, you come here to rethink.
That's right.
That's the whole point. Is you come.
That would have been a perfect chance for the middle camera, by the way.
You come to rethink,
don't want to get yelled
and
at.
It doesn't matter what part of the aisle you're on. It shouldn't be political. And if you're going into conversation saying I'm not talking about politics, you have a preconditioned mindset of how that conversation is going to go. And I don't agree with that, first and foremost. Second of all, a conversation shouldn't be political unless you're talking about taxes this way or taxes that way. Talking about putting fluoride in water, whatever's healthiest for all of us is what the conversation should ultimately get to. And I believe that's what we're trying to do here is the fluoride good or bad for us?
Right.
If they're using a byproduct of fertilizer, I think everybody, if you put it in that context, give them the factual information, everybody should agree that it's bad for you. But because somebody that's high up in the fluoride industry has now paid media people who's paid politicians to make us think that the only reason that we have white teeth is because of the fluoride in our water. Or how about it's because of how much we pay to dentists? Or
we brush our teeth every day.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've talked to many females who say they don't shampoo their hair but once a month because it's better for their hair. Well, there's pluses and minuses to doing different things. If you use the wrong fluoride every day, yeah, it's going to affect our brain. If we use the right fluoride, it should affect our brain in a nonchalant way or in the right way. And when you use fertilizer, byproduct of fertilizer, I can only imagine what that's doing to our bodies.
Yeah, seriously.
/ brains.
All right, Doug, give us your wrapping thought.
So you mentioned at one point about, like, the studies and everything. It's like, well, you mentioned one by Cleveland Clinic. So it's like, well, Cleveland Clinic is a respectable thing. So maybe that means we'll get a little more study into it if they're willing to take that step. Like you mentioned people being afraid to. Well, if Cleveland Clinic's doing it, maybe that means we'll get that step. But my main thought through all this is talking about the studies coming out and like how you don't really hear much or they try to get discredited. Do you think they're being discredited because the government could possibly be opened up to lawsuits by forcing this upon us? We have no options of water besides the government water. We have to pay to be on their water and to pay for the pipes and the infrastructure. And we have no option of where it comes from. We can't choose we want our water to come from there versus there.
That's an unbelievable point.
So there's no, this is a necessary utility for existence and life.
When the sewer companies come in and say we're switching from septic to sewers,
we have no choice.
You have no choice. First, to your point, there's no choice. Second off, Doug, they're saying that the city's paying for it. The city's paying for it and then putting it on those people who live there in a tax. That's what's happening. Yep. So
as an assessment or something,
exactly, to your point, the government's ultimately getting the money. So that's a very awesome way of looking at it. The government is end all be all when it.
Well, and it's almost a legal monopoly too. So if this study comes out, not only are you going to have people trying to sue for their health, But then does this not make you think, like, why are we letting the government get away with this monopoly? We've outlawed monopolies. Why do we have no options for water other than this government that was forcing this now considered in the future?
The government sues every monopoly that ever existed, but those started by private people. And now we're talking about the government having it. And it's like, yeah, you can't really sue the government. That doesn't work very well. And
until they come out with the data that's like, oh, we've been poisoning our citizens.
Talking about monopolies, I think this still needs to be investigated. How are sports arenas and complexes still allowed to charge?
Oh, that's a whole, dude. That is a whole deep complex.
They're not owned by the government, and those monopolies are absolutely
they build their
ridiculous.
stadiums. They build the stadiums out of fluoride,
out of Dr. Pepper and Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Not even that. Well, they charge $12 to $15 for a pop for a thing. A Minecraft popcorn would be $30.
We built the stadium.
Out of
the fact that
dollars.
Jimmy Haslam gets to profit every Sunday off of a stadium we paid for.
Well, and then it's the whole thing of why does the MLB and the NBA and the NFL get to be technically a monopoly? Like, dude, this was a whole semester-long class I took in college, man. Like, there are levels, so many ancient laws. Like, in 1920, there was some MLB ruling.
Put Doug back in the box.
I did see recently, and don't quote me on this on the college name. I believe it was Coastal Carolina, though, what they're doing for their football games this year, and I believe it's only for students. However, this is unbelievable that they're doing this. It is free concessions. So obviously that's not beer, but it's free concessions for their students for the whole season, and they're allowed to get up to 3 things while waiting in line. So if you get your 3 things, you go back to the line. You're able to get 3.
Kidding.
I believe it's Coastal.
See, we had ours
Coastal
be
Carolina,
part of our
so-
meal plan, but like never free, never free.
No, it's free. Now I'm going to imagine their ticket prices are going up drastically. I believe it's
going to
Coastal
be like
Carolina.
It's going to be like a Yankees club seat ticket. It's $300 to see Florida Coastals, and you get as many Swedish goldfish as you want.
They're going to have all the knockoff brands and everything. They're going to have RC Cola.
Hey, the Browns have RC Cola, man. Yeah, that's the new beverage. Oh my God. I was like, I really want to like some Pepsi. RC Cola.
They're
nah, I'm
charging
good.
$17 instead of $13.
Yeah,
for RC Cola.
they doubled it.
How do you think we paid for Myles Garrett?
Yeah. We went down in quality and up in price, and you're paying for Miles. All right. We appreciate everybody that joined us. Appreciate everybody that went into the comments and added another element to the dialogue. The whole purpose of the live show is to get you involved, and we appreciate you joining us. But if we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you could do to support the show is hit the like button. You know, if you liked it, that means someone else you know would have too. So again, support us by taking the link and spreading it around your social media. Share it, because that's how you support what we're doing here. But we go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Doug and I also have a reaction show that we do on Sundays. Sometimes live, sometimes it's pre-recorded, but you can catch us every Sunday at 11 a.m. It's a bit of a palate cleanser. Get a break from all the chaos and all these politics. Play in the sand. Forget about the walls. Have some fun. But if you're looking for one central place where you can find all of our content, like the Rethink Tank podcast, which has a new episode coming out this Thursday, which is an incredible one. Medical attorney running for Miss Florida, huge accolades, and couldn't be more excited. She's working with a company that's developing AI and brain chips, and it's an incredible dialogue. So get excited for that on Thursday. But if you're looking for one central place where you can find all of this content, it's at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. So be sure to head on over there. But otherwise, guys, we appreciate you joining us, and catch us on the next one. Peace.